One of my earliest memories as a biker was when me and my spotty mates about 16 years ago, leering around on a motley assortment of old Yamaha Fizzes and an ancient MTX50, were waiting at a garage forecourt for our 25p's worth of fuel, and in thundered one of the very first GSXR750s. It stopped, we all stood there, wow! And off clambered this little ancient man. He must have been 95 and we couldn't believe it, heartbroken. But it does go to show the status of the bike then, and it still has that now. 16 years later, it's still around, and this is the latest. Comparing it with the bike I saw back then, the biggest difference is, well, now it's pretty. Back then, it was hideous. Slab-sided with a great snub flat nose to it, and the tank sitting on top of that ridiculously old-fashioned frame, old-fashioned even then. But now, and for the first time, the GSXR really is a very pretty bike. Right from its pointy nose to its little gathered-up tail. Gone is the hideous seat hump that used to cover the pillion seat on the previous version, to replace by a much finer, neater, more tapered tail. And here's another huge difference compared with the bike back then. It's light. The thing weighs nothing, about the same as a 600, which with the power it's got can mean only one thing: fun, and plenty of it. 10 years after I first saw that little old man tottering off his, I managed to buy one, scraping together enough bank loans, overdraft and crippling finance deals to buy a WP model in 1994. I loved it, but compared to this, it felt like a bus. Who's got a pretty little face then? Well, it has compared to the last one, which always looked kind of like it had been chasing parked cars. This is far more pert and pretty. These air intakes contribute to the gorgeous sound at speed as the air rushes through the intakes, the carbon fibre effect intakes at the side of the fairing. Down here, the brakes, well, they've been changed. Last year's model was 6 pots at the front, now it's just two-piston calipers, 4 in all. It's lighter than before, but perhaps you'd use a bit of the immediacy, but they do stop you. Working our way back, well, we've got the engine. They reckon about 4% more power than the previous model, and it's a hell of a lot lighter. And although overall the bike is actually longer than last year, the frame itself is shorter. The extra length comes in the gorgeous swing arm. Climbing aboard, well, you've still got the same rather extreme feet-up jockey riding position that you'd expect to find, but it's not that extreme. The bars are direct in front of you. It is short, straight down to the wheel at a very steep rake. And then in front of me I've got one analogue dial for the rev counter, nice and big, and one nice, neat digital little speedo. All very purposeful. As you'd expect with any modern 3/4 litre superbike, most of the power is available above 7,500 revs. Below that, there's very little to it. In fact, if you were around Stoke-on-Trent recently, you might have seen me on it. I was the guy who stalled at the lights, got the revs up, and then pretty much wheeled it away. And that tends to be what happens until you've got used to it. Once you have got used to it, it is glorious. That lightweight makes itself felt, or not felt more to the point, combined with plenty of power, as long as you're in the right gear and in the right part of the rev range. Braking, stopping and accelerating are all performed beautifully, thank you very much. Like so many superbikes of the moment, it's an intriguing combination of precision and accuracy together with brute force, both of which it has in huge supplies. If your mates are all roaring around on blades and R1s, don't worry. If you're any kind of rider, you will be keeping up with them, no problem, thank you. On a track, well, it might lose, but don't forget, it's 750, it's not 1 litre. In the end, when the payments became too much, like so many before me, I had to sell my GSXR in midwinter and at a crippling loss. This new one, though, will set you back about £7,500 straight from the showroom, but as always, the advice is don't just go straight out to the dealer and hand over your hard-earned. Shop around, haggle. You can pick up an ex-demonstrator like this one with about 400 miles on the clock for £7,100. No, get off, it's mine! I found this one fair and square, and I'm not letting it happen to me again. You stay with me, don't you worry. No! Get off! We won't be parted, don't worry. It's happened once, it's not going to happen again.